Hi guys, welcome back to nitahcrochets. My name is Anita and the hook is my magic wand. So I have previously made this hollow monokini and over it I have dressed these mesh bell bottoms. Now this tutorial is for the mesh bell bottoms. The written pattern for both pieces are on my Etsy, coffee shop and ravelry, alright? The written pattern for the mesh bell bottoms is going to include sizes small, medium and large, and this tutorial is meant for a size small. Alternatively, I am leaving links for the written patterns in the description box, alright? Now we are going to be making these. They're super easy. Any adventurous beginner would jump onto this, but also I'm going to be sharing adjustments for people that may need a wider bell, okay? You have rave parties, this is your go-to outfit, alright? And I would see that you may need a wider bell for rave parties, so adjustments are going to be included. Let's get started. Alright, so let's jump into the tutorial. I'm going to be working with this 6mm hook. Okay, I have worked 2 pants and one I used a 5mm, and then now this one is for 6mm. I'll show you the difference for both. I'm going to be using acrylic yarn. It's 100% acrylic. It is size 2, so it is lightweight, and I'm going to be doubling my strands so I get some sort of gauge. Okay, now if you have DK yarn, I know DK yarn would be a good alternative if you cannot find this kind of yarn that I'm going to be using for this tutorial. Now before you start working these pants, okay, I am going to break it down for you. You will need to know your high waist measurements and then your hip measurements, okay? In my written pattern for these pants, I have included sizes small, medium and large, so it is easy for you to just like jump onto the pattern without having to take measurements, because I included adjustments for all those sizes. But now we are going to be working sets of 2, okay, or multiples of 2, then plus 2. Oh yeah, yes, multiples of 2 and then plus 2. So you get your high waist measurements and divide the number by 2, okay? So if you're like 24, divide it by 2, let it be 12. Now you are going to work chains in multiples of 2 that are equivalent to 12 inches of half of your high waist, all right? And then once you have the multiples of 2 that are equivalent to 12 inches, you're going to chain 2 more chains, okay? 2 more chains, all right? So for me, I have worked 54 chains. I am working with a 6mm, so keep in mind that my tension is loose. So that means what my product is going to be is actually it's made to fit my waist, but it's actually going to be in position to stretch out to pass through my hips. I hope I am very clear. If you feel your tension cannot give you the result, kindly adjust, maybe work a few more inches past your high waist measurements, a few more inches, because at the end of the day we are going to add a drawstring. All right, so do not work your work so tightly. We are working with a 6mm. That is why I chose that hook, so that we do not have tight work. Now once you have all your chains complete, you are going to work into the second chain stitch from the hook and work a single crochet, and we are going to work single crochets all the way until the end of our row, just like this. So for me, I worked 54 chains and I've ended up with 53 stitches. So the number of stitches you end up with should be an odd number. It shouldn't be an even number. It should be an odd number. And once you have that, we are going to chain 4. 3 of these chains are going to act as a stitch. So that means the stitch there is skipped. The second stitch is also skipped. And then into the third stitch, we are going to work a double crochet. You see that? Now chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch. chain one, skip one, work a double crochet into the next stitch. Now this is where you're going to see the reason as to why we need to have an odd number for our stitches, okay? Because once you work these chains and these gaps, you will find that at the end of the row you have that one double crochet that has to end the row for the very last chain gap. And if you have an even number, you won't have where to place that last double crochet. So that means you need to have an odd number for your stitches, okay? That's why when you are working the chains, I told you must add 2 more chains, okay? One to be our turning chain to work the single crochets, and then the other is what has to be left to work the last double crochet on this row. Now, just like you see my work, this is how it looks like, and this is how your work should look like. My voice is a little hoarse, guys. Just take that in. Also, my nails are not done. I really haven't found time for this. But at least let me just deliver what I have to deliver to you guys, because honestly, I am excited for you guys to see that you know how to work all these types of pants, okay? Now, for the next row, we are going to chain 2 and turn our work, and we shall skip the first stitch. Like I said, 3 of the chains act as a double crochet stitch. So into the next double crochet, we work a double crochet. Now skip 1, chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next this stitch or double crochet stitch, and just keep doing this because the mesh stitch is literally so beginner friendly, and this is a project I would believe a beginner would want to jump onto. So we are going to do this until the end of the row, okay? And this is how your work should look like. All right, now I'm going to let you guys do this very same thing that we have done for the next row and the next row for 2 rows, okay? So that means we are going to have 4 rows. Now I'm going to get back once you have 4 rows and show you what to do. Now this is me with 4 rows, okay? And this is how my work looks like. It may look small, but this is like just half of the measurements for my waist, all right? And we need to start increasing so that we meet our hip measurements. Now to do that, we are going to chain 4 and turn our work. Like I said, 3 of the chains act as a stitch. Now today, this time, we are going to be working into the very first stitch. So literally we have worked an increment, and this is more like a V, all right? And that V stitch is going to be into the very first stitch. So that's an increase. Okay, now for the next stitches, we are going to chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet in the next stitch, okay? And we are just going to keep working the chain 1, skip 1, a double crochet in the next stitch until we come to the end of our row. Now I intend to have the increment for my crotch or for my hips to be gradual, okay? When you work an increment on both sides, like starting the row and ending the row, your pant will like go wide too fast. So that's why we are just going to work the normal mesh until the end of the row, okay? Up to there. Now here you work into the 3rd chain stitch, okay, of the 4 chains that started the previous row. That's how you end your row. So let me meet you guys there, then show you what to do. So this is it. This is how my row ended, and that's how it looks like, okay? I only have the increment on the other side. Now once again, also when starting this row, I'm going to work an increase. So we are going to chain 4 and turn our work. 3 of the chains act as a stitch. So into that very first double crochet stitch, we are going to work a double crochet. Now this is the V, okay, the increment, and this is what we worked previously on the other row. Now for the next stitches, we chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet in the next stitch, and this is what we are going to do for all the stitches on this row until the end of the row. Now this means that we are only working an increase at the beginning of the row. At the beginning of every row is where we are working an increment, okay? Now I want you guys to keep in mind that when I say a row of increase, this is what I mean. Any row that will have an increase is going to be called a row of increase or a row of increment. And then any row that does not have any increments whatsoever and it's just the normal mesh stitch is going to be called a normal row. I have gotten this in my comments where I say work 2 normal rows and people just don't understand what I mean by that. I hope I am clear with this one, okay? Now this is how your row should look like. You can see that we are starting to have some sort of like increment on the sides, okay? See that? Now I'm going to let you guys just do the very same thing for the next row and the next row, and I'm going to get back to just tell you how many rows I have or how many rows I have in total for my project. Just keep doing the increment at the beginning of the row only, okay? Then I'll get back and show you how many rows I have worked. I hope it is easy for you to understand now, okay? Now that I'm back, this is it, literally. This is how your work should look like, okay? This is how your work should look like. Now, personally, all the way from the top, I have 15 rows all the way from the top. If I count all the rows, including the single crochet row, okay, that means I have 14 rows of the mesh stitch. So work your increments until you have 14 rows of the mesh, and then the single crochet row that started the project makes it 15. This is how your work should look like. All right, you see that increment? And here you must make sure that what you have all the way across is able to stretch out to meet your hip measurements. Literally half your hip measurements, because this is one leg, so it should be half your hip measurements. If it cannot stretch out, please go ahead and add a few more rows, okay, going wide, so that you have the width that you need for your hips, because some people have small waists and then they have very wide hips. For those, you will need to make sure that your waist measurements, you added a few inches onto your waist measurements before you started the whole entire project, okay? Now for me here, I have the width that I desire for my hip, okay, for my left hip. So what I am going to do from here is I am going to work a slip stitch into the third chain stitch that started the row, okay? Now, please make sure that you have the right measurements before you work this close, because for me, this is it. It's enough for me. But if it's not enough for you or you need to go higher, you can work a few more rows, all right? Now, once you have that, you're going to work a slip stitch into the third chain stitch that started the previous row, and this is to this is to close our crotch, okay? And just do this, and now we have our crotch closed, just like that. All right. Now going forward, I'm going to be working normal rows of just the mesh stitch. Now let me take you through how we are going to do that. We are going to chain 4, okay, and 3 of the chains act as a stitch. So we turn our work. Now here we have been skipping 1, so for the very first time we are going to skip 2, okay? 2 is that stitch and then the chain that is, in between that chain gap, okay? You see that? So we go into the double crochet that is closest there and we work a double crochet stitch, okay? Because now once we worked a slip stitch, the 2 double crochets that ended, or the double crochet that started the previous row and one that ended that very row, now it becomes 1, all right? That's why we have skipped 2, because we want it to become 1 stitch, all right? Now from there we are going to chain 1, skip 1, work 1 double crochet into the next stitch, and chain 1, skip 1, work 1 double crochet in the next stitch. And now we are just going to go all the way around until we come to the end of our row. And when you are there, I'm just going to get back and show you how to end the row, and then we shall get going forward. We shall get forward from there. Now this is it. I have come to the end of my row, and this is how my work looks like. So once you are here, you are going to chain one, all right, and then work a slip stitch into the third chain stitch of the 4 chains that started the previous row. That started the row. The 4 chains that started the row, we work a slip stitch into the third chain stitch, okay? And that's how we end our row, and this is how your work should look like. So that's our first row of our leg, okay, like the body of our leg, okay, after the crotch. So once again, please endeavor to turn your work for every row. Chain 4, turn your work, 3 of the chains act as a stitch, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet in the next stitch. Now if you do not turn your work for every row, this is what is going to happen. Your ending point is going to start moving all the way to the front. It's going to, we need to have our ending point straight, more like a seam line. It should be straight, okay? Whenever you do not change your work, your seam line is going to start slanting and moving forward, and before you know it, you will find that now your ending point is at the front, yet I want us to keep it on the side so that it does not appear anywhere on the front. So we have clean work, and someone has to look for where our seam line is. That is how perfect I love my work to be. So make sure you turn your work for every row, okay? That is something you should keep in mind, more so if you're working in rounds. And this is knowledge or a tip you should keep for every project that you work. If you're working in rounds, keep that in mind. Now from here, we are going to go all the way around, just like I have showed you. Just keep doing that, going all the way around, okay, for a couple of rows. Now this is how my work looks like, okay, after me going all the way around for several rows, and I'm going to let you know how many rows I have worked, okay, starting from the crotch all the way going down. Remember, we don't have any increments, okay, and what I have right now is good length for me to start working my bell, okay. Now first, let me just tell you how many rows I have, okay. Now here I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. No. There are 25 actually. There are 25. So I have 25 rows. Now for me, 25 rows is length that goes up to my knee, okay? So you should have 25 rows. Just in case it's not enough for you to be at your knee, because this is where we start working our bell. Make sure you add a few more rows so that you are at the knee, like midway the knee. That's where we are going to start working our bell, or slightly above the knee, okay? Now here you're going to count the number of chain gaps that you have all the way going round, so that we divide the number by 2 and then mark where we must put our increments for the bell, all right? So count your stitches going all the way around, all right? Count your chain gaps going all the way around, and then divide the number of chain gaps that you got. The total number of chain gaps, you divide it by 2. And what we have is what we are going to mark to have the spots where we must work our increments. Now for me, I have 36, and 36 divided by 2 gives me 18. So I'm going to count 18 from the starting point right there, because lucky enough, my starting point is on the side, like at the crotch. So it's just easy for me. I just count 18 and I will mark the 18th. That's the double crochet stitch that makes the 18th chain gap, okay? This is it, and I'm going to get my acting stitch marker and just put it right there. So I am going to have an increment at the start of the row, because my starting point is at the side, like I said. This lady is up, so yeah. and then I'm going to also have an increment right here where I have marked. So basically our increments are going to be on the sides for our bell. So let me get into that. Now to get started, I am going to chain 4. All right, like I said, our increments are going to be at the start and the marked stitch. So chain 4, turn your work. Once you turn your work, you are going to work 1 double crochet into that very first stitch. The very first stitch is where you're going to work your first double crochet. You see that? And then now we are going to continue with the mesh stitch. So we chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1, okay, work a double crochet in the next stitch. And this you are going to do all the way until we get to the marked stitch. All right, until we get to the double crochet closest to the marked stitch. All right, so I'm going to let you go all the way until right there, then I'll get there and show you what to do. And here I am, this is it. So what you are going to do here is you are going to chain 1, skip 1. Now into the marked stitch right there, you are going to work 1 double crochet, just like that. Chain 1, work a double crochet once again into that very same stitch. Okay, so that's our increment. Like I said, the V is an increment, and so we have an increase right here. Now chain 1, skip 1, work 1 double crochet into the next stitch. All right, and from here you are just going to chain 1, skip 1, work 1 double crochet in the next stitch until you come to the end of the row. Okay, and to end your row you'll chain 1, skip 1, and work a slip stitch into the 3rd chain stitch of the 4 chains that started the row right there. So you work your you work a slip stitch in there to end your row, and that's where I'm going to meet you. And this is it. I have come to the end of my row. Like you see, I have an increase right there and then an increase right there. Okay, now for the next row we are not going to have an increase. The next row is going to be a normal row. Okay, so this is what we shall do. We are going to chain 4, okay, and then turn our work. All right, and once you turn your work, you will now skip the first stitch. Like I said, this is going to be a normal row, so you skip the first stitch. 3 of the chains act as a stitch, so you skip the first, then skip the second, and into the 3rd stitch you work a double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet in the next, and just do this all the way around for all the chain gaps and stitches. Okay, until you come to the end of the row, and you will not have to work any increments. So once you come to the end of the row, you will work a slip stitch into the 3rd chain stitch of the 4 chains that started the row. Okay, so just go around, work a slip stitch right there, and then I'm going to meet you on the next row. And this is it. This is how our work looks like. We only have 1 increment right there and then 1 normal row. Okay, now this is where everything is going to change. From here, literally here I was just introducing the increment for the bell, but this is not the kind of sequence that we are going to follow going forward. Now for the next increment, you will need to also count your chain gaps and mark the stitch where you must have your next increment. Usually I don't count, I just place my stitch marker in line with into the stitch that is in line with my previous increment, because honestly sometimes you just don't have time to go counting and marking you know. But yes, once I have that, now I'm going to work an increment. So I will chain 4, turn my work, and into the very first stitch I will work my double crochet, and then I'll chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch. So basically this row is of an increase, this row is of an increase, and so you are going to have an increase at the beginning of the row and then an increase at the marked stitch as well. Okay, an increase at the beginning of the row and at the center of the row. Okay, because the marked stitch is literally at the center of the row. So yes, an increase at the beginning of the row and at the center of the row. So just go around working, chain 1, skipping 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch all the way until you get to the marked stitch. Okay, now from there I am going to show you how to work the increase. Once again, I know some of you already know, but yes, if you do, just do the very same thing, work an increase and then work the normal mesh until the end of the row. So let me meet you guys there at the center of the row. So here it is, I have an increase right there, and then normal mesh stitches, or the normal mesh stitch. So it is right there at the at the marked stitch that I need to work another increment. Okay, so here I'm going to chain 1 and skip 1 and into the marked stitch right there. I am going to work a double crochet and then chain 1. Now I need to stretch this forward. When we started our bell, we worked an increase, a 1 row of an increase, and then 1 normal row. Now we cannot go forward doing that. From here, once we have this increment, we are now going to be working 1 row of an increase and then 2 normal rows. 1 row of an increase and then 2 normal rows. Okay, you see that our bell is starting to form. If you go forward with 1 row of an increase and then 1 normal row, our bell is going to be too huge, and I don't want that. That's not what I want. But if you're looking for a very big bell, that's what you should do. If you're looking for just a good width of a bell, then you are going to work 1 row of an increase followed by 2 normal rows. Okay, and this is what you're going to do for all the rows going forward. Okay, just work 1 row of an increase and then 2 normal rows all the way going forward until you have the length of the pants that you are looking for. Okay, personally, all the way from the crotch area going down, I have a total number of 48 rows. Okay, so we already had 25 and we have worked a few more rows going forward. Okay, so you have a few more rows, more like teens, something, maybe 19 or something, I don't know, a few more rows to go past where we are right now. So here I have worked chains, 4 chains, turned my work, and worked the mesh all the way going around, and then you'll work another row that is just normal without any increment whatsoever. Okay, before you now start working the row of an increase. Okay, so just go around, work a normal row and work another normal row, then mark the stitch that you need to work an increase, because the next row after that will be of an increase. Then after that row of an increase, work 2 normal rows. Just do that all the way, and I'm going to meet you after you have your whole bell complete. Then I can show you what to do next. All right, so this is how your work should look like. All right, from here up to the crotch I have 15 rows, and then from the crotch going down I have 48 rows. So you can add that up and know the number of rows that you should have for your whole entire project. And this is how it looks like. That's a picture of how it looks like in length, because it can't fit on my table. But then you can see that our bell is just enough width. Okay, for me this is enough width that I would like for my bell, but I told you what to do if you want a very, very wide bell. All right, so this is it. Now from here, what we are going to do is we are going to work single crochets along the edge of our crotch right here. So this is what we shall do. I'm just going to turn my work and make sure that I'm working on the right side. Okay, so first of all, it may look like your work is on the inside. This should be the inside following our first row, and this should be the outside. But then I love to turn my work in out and have my final project like this. Okay, but if you feel like this doesn't look very pleasing, you can just turn in out and let this be your outside. But for me, I want my outside to be this. For me, it looks good that way. I don't know about you, but the choice is yours. Now I'm going to get into this very first stitch right here, and I'm going to get my yarn. I'll just clear this. Okay, right here. So I'm going to do this and then chain one. All right, and into this very same stitch, I'm going to work a single crochet. Now from here, I'm going to be working 2 single crochets for every double crochet post. I'm going to get into the bottom of that double crochet post and work a single crochet, and then my second single crochet is going to be into that post right there, like that. So my first single crochet for the next double crochet post is going to be right here at the bottom of the post, and then the next will be into the post itself. But if this gets confusing for you, you can just work your single crochets into the post and just make sure you have 2 single crochets for every double crochet post. But for me, this is how I try to distribute my single crochets. Now you need to make sure that your work is not too tight, because if it is too tight, you won't have this kind of thing. Your work will like start to get together like this. Okay, and you don't want that. So just make sure that your tension is not tight. All right, but yes, I expect you to have this result. Now you are just going to keep doing this for all the stitches, all the way going down and all the way going up. I'm just going to make this fast forward. So this is it. You see how it looks like? Just do this all the way going down up to down here. Now when you get down here, of course, 1 single crochet will be here, the other here, and then you'll work 1 here, then cross over to here, and then here, and just proceed going up, doing that very same thing until you're up right here. That's where I'm going to meet you, then tell you what to do next. All right, now as you can see, I have finished working all the way along this whole edge, all the way going down and then all the way back to the waist. So I'm going to let you guys follow the very same steps we have taken from start to where we are right now for your second leg, because literally this is just 1 leg. Okay, this is only 1 leg and this is the left leg. So to work the right, you just need to follow exactly what we have done so you get your right leg. And now that means we shall have 2 pieces of these, just like this. So I have these 2, okay, the left leg and the right leg. Okay, now I'm just going to join these parts together so that we just have a complete trouser. Now I'm going to get my yarn needle and just get my yarn, cut it off, fix it into the eyelet of my needle, and I'm going to start stitching these two together. Okay, it's just freehand, very easy, so there is no science or mathematics about it. Just go down, stitching these two together, okay, the left to the right, making sure that they are well stitched together. Okay, now you are going to go all the way down and then all the way up until the waist. Okay, so going down on this side, this is how it looks like. See that? Now I'm just now going to attach all the way going up to the front. Okay, now all the way going up to the front, once it's done, it's going to look like this. Okay, you see, it's very perfect, very neat. Now just to secure my waistline, I am going to work just one row of double crochet along the opposite side of our foundation chains for both legs. And once you have your double crochets worked along that, you are now going to work a few chains for your drawstring. I made sure that my drawstring ties to the back, so at the front you see that it's well fitted and all that. The drawstring ties to the back. Okay, and this is the result that you should have for your trouser. I hope you have learned how to make your bell bottoms. Okay, a written pattern for this is available.